Curtis Emery, our regular Massachusetts reporter, is off this week, so I went to the bullpen, as they say in sports, and brought in Chris Faraone, the right-hander from BINJ, the Boston Independent Nonprofit Journalism Group, and the Talking Joints Memo, because he wrote something last week that really upset me. Not what you wrote, Chris, but hearing about the unsavory tactics of the signature gathering by the Prohibitionist group that's trying to do that here in Massachusetts. What do you know about their tactics?
Well, it was so egregious that I didn't believe it at first, or I thought my friend was mistaken. And then a source contacted me, and what I started to hear about a week and a half ago now, it's been 10 days of getting after this story, was that there were people collecting signatures, as people do, for ballot initiatives in Massachusetts. We currently have 40 that the Attorney General said can, if enough signatures are collected, can advance to the next stage and potentially eventually to the ballot in 2026. Two of those measures are related to cannabis. They basically, as you know, get rid of adult use dispensaries. And what I was told was by my first source was a friend who said that they were told, sign this, it's so that kids stop going to jail for marijuana. And, in the moment, I guess she didn't stop to think, they're not, it's already legalized. And she signed it along with a couple other initiative petitions that this guy was collecting. This is down in Hanover on the South Shore of Massachusetts. And I marinated on it for a day. I looked up some things, and we'd already done reporting on who's behind this ballot initiative. It is people related to the Massachusetts Republican Party and to prohibitionist forces that actually just successfully defeated a ballot question in favor of psychedelics, of regulating psychedelics in Massachusetts. So I'm familiar with them, and also from past prohibitionist exercises they've been involved with. So I went to see myself. And so now I think it's a week ago from my first standout. I'm like one of you TV reporters, in this parking lot of the supermarket. And I didn't ambush the guy. I did approach him. In Massachusetts, we're not allowed to just record people without their consent, and that's pretty strict, even in public. I didn't want to push it, but I took my notes. I listened to him pitch other people, and the pitch I got was very similar. And I went and reported that, and people were like, "Oh my God, I've seen the same thing." A lot of people, even people in the industry, said they've been fooled into signing this, into signing something. Some actually said it was a straight up bait and switch. People are now reporting to me, several people, that they were asked to sign something related to low income housing and then given a form to sign for the other one. I mean, that is even worse. So it's all different forms. I'll shut up in a second, but I went back out Monday, 2 days later. So earlier this week. And wow. I've encountered two guys in Weymouth, Massachusetts, and a different two people, and they were basically just telling people whatever they wanted to hear. So for me, it was like a total half truth, which is they're putting marijuana back on the ballot so the people can decide. Decide what we decided. And the other guy, I followed him around. He was telling this one guy, well, people are getting ounces, bringing them to other states. It's a real problem. So this is just, like I said, if it's such a great initiative, it's such a good idea, why do you have to lie to people to even get the signatures, let alone to get it to pass? So I've been saying from day one, this is not something to mess around with. Look at what happened with the psychedelics measure. I know it's different, but these people clearly, they were out talking smack last week. One of the organizers behind the ballot initiative or their public mouth was out telling, I think, Cannabis Business Times that they're on track to collect 100,000, and they need 75,000. And I'll tell you, Jimmy, they better collect 100,000. They better collect 200,000 if they're doing it like this, because every one of those is going to get challenged.
And is there a chance that once these unsavory tactics get to the Attorney General's desk, that she'll say, we can't validate these signatures?
A lot of this stuff. First of all, I think this will be in the Elections Division, which is under the Secretary of Commonwealth, and the Attorney General is involved too. It is very confusing. I actually do want to mention the Attorney General, I think, bears some responsibility here. These measures are so ridiculous, confusingly written. The things that people sign, it is not big bold print. It is fine print. It doesn't even say the name. I don't know if this is good or bad. It doesn't even say the name of the ballot initiative, which is to restore sensible marijuana policy, something
Right.
crazy like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be good if it did, because then people are like, oh yeah, let's restore sensible marijuana. It's totally ridiculously named. As for what happens later, yes, I don't know what the result will be, but this is commonplace. I mean, I have not seen. Actually, I will say the people on the other side of the ballot question for psychedelics did get their first round of signatures questioned. They went because they had different problems, right?
Yeah.
This happens, and it's costly. And I will say sure, I'm partial, but it's them. They're the ones who apparently are cheating.
Right.
So they can whine and complain all they want. This is what's going to happen when you're out there. And by the way, my videos have gone what I call local viral, 10, 20, 30,000 views, which
Good.
means a lot of people have seen them.
Good.
And that doesn't seem to have impacted anything. If anything, I think they're out faster and trying to get those signatures more, I don't know what their game plan is, because they're still out lying to people. I'm getting calls all day long, every day.
Wow. And that really bothers me. We both know who's behind this. It's a group out of Washington called Smart Approaches to Marijuana. It's led by a guy named Dr. Kevin Sabet, who, as far as I know, Chris, is the guy who coined the phrase for the first time, cannabis use disorder, which, while it is perfectly defined now, at least in most parts it is. However, he thinks, based on everything I've read about this guy and every time I see him speak, any use of cannabis is a disorder. And that's what prohibition is all about. It puts a scare tactic into people. And that's what I can't stand.
Well, Kevin Sabat, who runs that group and is associated with that, and given they're not directly doing this, but there's funding there, and those dots have been connected.
Yeah.
He is one of the biggest grifters, who has risen to unbelievably high levels
I know.
under bipartisan administrations, Democrats and Republicans. This is a guy who hangs out with, the fail son Kennedy, Patches, the guy who crashed his car in the middle of D.C., who is in bed with the Suboxone lobby. These are not good people. Usually I'm careful to not just call someone a liar, but this Kevin Sabet's a liar. We actually had a great experience with this, and props to Dr. Keith Saunders, longtime MassCan board member, writer, activist, a friend of mine.
Yep.
Keith, years ago, Kevin Sabet, it must have been like 2000, maybe it was 2015 when the initiative for cannabis was up.
Yeah.
And 2016, and Kevin Sabet held up two things of gummies. I think it was actually at the Kennedy Center in Dorchester. I could be wrong. In a debate, and he said, one of these are infused gummy bears, and one is just regular gummy bears that I got at the store. And you can't even tell the difference. And that's how dangerous this is, yada, yada, yada. Keith stole both of the bags of gummy bears. And we were writing for Dig Boston at the time. We had them tested at a testing lab.
Neither.
And of course, needless to say, neither was infused. I'm sure one of the smaller lies this guy's ever told, but this is just nonsense. And I got to say, watching them out in public, this is just absolutely shameless. And listen, I can't believe they're going through it. Usually I'd say, I really do support democracy. Put it on the ballot. Let's see what happens. I wish it wasn't, because I don't trust Massachusetts voters. Massachusetts voters are by and large idiots. I mean, they voted against a measure to forget. I mean,
I've been a voter in Massachusetts.
Nurses voting against a measure to limit patient limits. You could get people to vote against their own interests very easily here. Just last election, we had servers voting against their own interest regarding tipped wages, basically siding with the tavern and grill owners. Those guys over their own interest. It happens. So I'd rather not be there. But if it's going to be there, you got to play fair.
Now I read this morning that the great state of Maine is going to try and do the same thing. And I'm not sure. I have no confirmation of this. I have no idea if Sam is involved with this or not. I do know that the regular prohibitionist movement in Maine, some of the key players in that one it's reported that they are involved. So nothing will surprise me anymore. But what happens and what is happening is it's a slap in the face for democracy. If the voters use the ballot question to get their interests and what they care about out in front of other voters, that's democracy. isn't it? And then all we do with the lawmakers, all the elected officials, all they try to do is undo that process and make it as difficult as it's happening in Ohio. It's happening in Nebraska. It's happening in other states that are trying to get this across. While needless to say, I think these prohibitionists have been emboldened with this Republican-driven initiative in our federal government, and they're bringing this into the states. And it is the Republicans, I'm pretty sure, that want the states to control everything. Am I wrong there?
I mean, yes, I mean historically, of course, but I think right now, and I'm the last. I'm no conspiracy monger. I'm the guy who digs the actually drills down, does a lot of boring journalism as a result. I will say,
Yeah.
and I
I'm
think
the
a lot
talk
of
show
this
host.
is.
I'm the conspiracy guy.
I don't think there's some underlying. I think prohibition is going to prohibition. There are some things to be suspect of. For example, in Florida, we really saw the fight against adult use cannabis led by Republicans who were in bed with the hemp companies. Now that's way too complicated for your average voter, even a Floridian, to get especially a Floridian, to wrap their heads around. But this is case by case. In Maine, I have no idea what's going on. I do know that there are always forces who are just always going to cherry pick, not care about the tax revenue. In Massachusetts, I also hate to say it, but when a ballot initiative passes that the legislature doesn't like, they rewrite the hell out of it or ignore it entirely. We're actually dealing with that right now on a ballot initiative to audit the legislature. Imagine that. They've now hired lawyers. We broke that story on my nonprofit side.
Remember that.
We're about how this legislature hired lawyers to defend themselves against a ballot initiative that the people of Massachusetts voted overwhelmingly for. So that could happen. Of course, original cannabis law was rewritten. So I think if this passed, I can't even imagine. I think conservatives in Massachusetts would be as up in arms as haven't been that up in arms since they passed tax legislation or a tax proposal that was, I think, ignored. I have to get my history together on that. But I harbor no true animosity, nothing personal against these people. And I wanted to specify the people who are out collecting ballots, they're wage workers. They're getting paid by the signature. I don't have respect for these guys. They're lying. They likely know they're lying. And by the way, a lot of their scripts seem awfully familiar from place to place. So perhaps it's coming from on top. I don't know how we'd ever prove that. Maybe eventually, but people have asked me why haven't I run up on these people, like one of those, like a television news crew, a 5 o'clock news crew. It's
ambush journalism. We call that ambush journalism.
It's not my style. I'm not trying to hurt people. I don't blame them specifically. I am a confrontational person, but I'm not trying to get in fistfights outside a market basket.
God. No, absolutely not. And lastly, I've got to bring this up because, again, I'm putting my news show together for this week, and I read about this new market in Florida, seed and bean market in Cape Coral. They already have locations in Venice and Fort Myers, where the Red Sox happen to train. You know how everything comes back to sports with me. Anyway, they have a THC infused beverage cafe opening. And it also is serving alcohol. So they have all the things that you would want if you had the reasoning and the experience to run something that would be a social consumption lounge for THC. Now, of course, they're talking about low grade THC products, but you and I both know that these infused beverages, you can get a little buzz off it. Maybe not as big a buzz as the concentrates that are out there in various dispensaries, but still, it is a intoxicating tool with alcohol under the same roof. And I'm just amazed that here we are in Massachusetts, they still haven't figured out how to open one social consumption.
Well, they're working on it. Even there's some hiccups at the Cannabis Control Commission this week, but they're redlining them. I mean, they spent 5 hours doing it this week. As far as alcohol is concerned, I will say that, alcohol and heavy doses of edibles are the two things that people with experience in this realm, when I've interviewed them, like Kyle Moon at the Summit Lounge in Worcester,
they don't mix.
Well, obviously no booze, but even for him, heavy edibles, the only problems they've ever run into is with edibles, not with smoking. So, not even with dabs. So I think most of the people who know this space, club promoters, bar owners, they don't want anything to do with people mixing like that. I will say, on the other hand, it was interesting to see. I don't know where they are on it now, so I'd have to check because this is hundreds of pages of regs that they're redlining. But a couple of months ago, the Cannabis Control Commission did face the fact that they had to consider the two molecules being in the same building or near each other at least. So take for like a concert. You're not
Right.
you can have a concert. This concert, every concert we're gonna have to choose is a weed concert or a booze concert. No, festivals are gonna have both. So there are considerations for some of the license types. I think that's still going on, but it came a little bit from the just absolutely no way, never together at the beginning of regulations. I'm not sure where it is now, but that's certainly something I'll be paying attention to as they promulgate regulations, hopefully within the next couple of months.
Well, that's why I respect so much the work you do and everybody else in the journalist world. I really do. You guys work hard.
Thanks, man.
People look for you, this is what's going on. You need to do something about this, Chris. The bottom line is you want to, and you enjoy the fact that you have this right as a journalist in this country to find out what the truth really is. And I respect you for that.
Nice, man. Well,
All right.
Great stuff. Keep it going. Keep doing it all around the country, Jimmy.
You bet. And that's Chris Faraone from the Talking Joints Memo. And we'll have more Cannabis Coast to Coast news after this. And I appreciate you so much, man. I really do.
Anytime, man.
I think I messed up. Did you know there's a place that covers all the cannabis news you need? Pro Cannabis Media is now WPCM TV, your go-to website for things cannabis. WPCM TV is the CNBC of weed, bringing you the latest news you need.
Amy Carter. This week, she reports from inside the State House in Lansing.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters with this week's Michigan Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
And talk shows about all things cannabis.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all you're doing to get the word out. Like, this show is so important.
It all started back in 2018 when Emmy award-winning talk show host Jimmy Young kicked it off with the In the Weeds podcast.
That it's not just any generic paper towel. You do have a brand that you use, right?
Yeah, we live or die by the bounty. I mean,
The quicker picker-upper. I love that.
His mission? Building an army of multimedia journalists and podcast hosts who are documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition in this country and around the world. Fast forward to today, and we've got the nation's only weekly cannabis coast-to-coast news program with Elena Pinto.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News, WPCM TV's weekly production of the fight to end cannabis prohibition in this country and around the world. I'm Elena Pinto.
Delivering the nation's only TV news-style program. Since June 2021, WPCM TV has racked up over 1.3 million views, with 17 million impressions, and picked up over 16,000 subscribers on YouTube alone. For more information, contact the team at WPCMTV.com.